Hello and welcome to Tokyo Inklings. My name is CY. You can find me on my website at tokyostationpens.com, on my Instagram at tokyostationpens, or on Twitter at tokyostationmnh.
And my name is Jacob. I'm Foodafan on Instagram and on Twitter, and have a blog at foodafan.com.
And welcome. This is episode 28. I can't believe we're here. This is officially 1 year. 1 year we've been podcasting, Jacob. How amazing is that?
Yeah, I think also what's interesting about this is that our sort of podcast year follows the Japanese school year or the Japanese financial year, right? So a few episodes back we talked about, the importance of seasons and the cherry blossom season, and why that is symbolic, not just because, it's the beauty of the cherry blossom, but because in March is where, the school year ends and the financial year ends, and in April is where everything begins all over again. So the cherry blossom season, which is right now, is where you say farewell to the old and welcome the new, and that's the same with our podcast.
Yes. And indeed, we have a lot of, I think we had a lot of changes to our podcast, because I think originally we probably wanted to do more like deep dives on specific topics.
Yeah.
But because there's just so many things that happen, right? There's so many things that happen in the Japanese fountain pen world. I think even more than we had originally realized was happening in a year.
Yeah.
That we could probably just do a news show just on the Japanese scene every single week. And that's pretty much what we have been doing for the past, I'd say 8 months. But it's really, really cool. Again, thank you to all of the listeners who make this possible. We grew from I think 300 people were listening to our first episode, and then now over 2,000-ish people listen to our episodes every single episode. So thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough, and I think Jacob feels the same way.
Yeah, and I will say to add to that, and one change for us is that since we're doing this podcast now, we are more sort of on the lookout for news and podcast topics than we were before. So what we usually do is a few days before the planned recording, we create this Google document and we started to add some notes about what we might talk about in the next podcast episode. And at least for me, for this episode, it looks like we didn't have that much to talk about this time. Right, it looks kind of, there's a little bit of Wagner, a little bit of Tony Lins, but not too much. But then in a few minutes we're going to explain why, but suddenly everything's changed and we have actually had to change our plans for this particular episode.
Yeah, I would actually disagree with you, Jacob, because I thought we were going to have an action-packed episode because I had asked some listeners via the Pen Addict Slack. I had asked for questions that they might have for Nagahara because I knew I was going to go see Nagahara-san today.
Ah, right, yeah, sure.
So I thought we were going to talk about Nagahara, and I managed to ask him a lot of interesting questions. I learned so much from Nagahara today. Not particularly in terms of grinding. I mean, I got some hints there as well, but more in terms of the thought process, how he feels, and his take on the whole scene. And then I met up with you and Alyssa and some of the others at Wagner.
Yeah.
And you had texted me, right? Because you couldn't get any good slots at Nagahara, I guess.
Right.
Because I took them.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. You and a bunch of different people went to the Wagner event today.
Yeah.
Before we started doing the podcast, I would say these Wagner events were probably some of the more interesting events that people went to.
Yeah. And
slowly it kind of devolved into this kind of sales channel for basically Lichtop, right? That kind of was the trajectory, and listeners of our early episodes will have heard this journey.
For sure.
And I originally was thinking of just going home after that. But you said you're going to check out this Ancora store.
Yeah.
And I had already made an appointment for next Saturday to go to Ancora because that's when Ishimaru has is having his first event. But I was like, why not? So I went along and it was worth it. We got a ton of information. So we're going to spend most of our episode talking about Ancora. Before we do so, we have a tradition, and that tradition is to read reviews. We have 2 very, very great reviews. We're really, really thankful for them. As we said earlier, we've changed a lot. We've learned a lot through the podcast. It wouldn't be possible without the listeners, without you. And we're always very interested in hearing what you have to say about how we run the show. So we'd like to read some reviews. The first one is from Parachan. And Parachan is he's just a great guy. He's followed my Instagram from almost the very, very beginning, even before the podcast. And he left some very nice words. He said, excellent updates on Japan fountain pen scene, 5 stars. It's nice to get updates on the Japanese fountain pen scene from folks who live there. Always fun to listen to. So thank you very much, Parachan.
Thank you. And I hope that he's going to enjoy this episode then.
Yes. Hekowee. I don't know if that's actually how you say it, but it's Hekowee, so I think it's Hekowee. Fresh look at the Japanese stationery scene. Very thoughtful and thorough overview of the Japanese scene that's especially helpful for Westerners new to this area of writing instruments and ephemera. Thanks so much for opening the door. Well done.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you indeed. We really appreciate your comments. And, again, the way to grow the podcast, the way to make this podcast even better is to tell a friend. That's the simplest way that you can do it. You can convince somebody to listen to us. If that's not somebody in your immediate household, somebody that you can't reach right now, making it your Instagram story, right? Telling people, hey, there's this awesome podcast I'm listening to. Writing a review. Those are all absolutely fantastic ways for us to grow, and it helps other people discover our podcast. So we'd really appreciate if you can leave a review, subscribe to our channel, and tell a friend, make it your Instagram story, and, just spread the word, spread the love.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so before we go into the main topic, I know we're teasing a lot. Before we go to the main topic, you've got something interesting from China.
Yes, so this Chinese pen maker, Pen BBS, they have been teasing a vacuumatic, or maybe it's pump filler or draw filler or button filler. I'm not actually sure about the terminology. I've heard different ways to describe this pen, but they've had this model called 348, or they've been teasing a model called 348 for quite a while now, I think several years. And I think what happened was that they tried to make this, let's call it vacuumatic, a few years back, but it didn't quite work. And I think the feed in particular is what stopped them from releasing this model. So they went back to the drawing board and they came up with a new feed, and they have just announced, or they just released what they call Pen BBS 348 test model. So this is a new model that has this newly designed feed. It's not meant to be, the regular production pen, and they say in the Etsy listing that this pen has known problems with a filling mechanism. It's not our normal production quality pens, but we want to get. I mean, if you want to test a new feed, then this is you can buy this model. So I was curious about the new feed, so I ordered 2 of these. The first thing that was really surprising to me was that how fast the pens arrived. So normally, as you know, when you buy something from China, it takes between 2 and 4 weeks usually, and sometimes it takes even longer now because of the pandemic. But even though there were warnings in the Etsy listing saying that shipping is very slow right now because of the pandemic, so if you cannot wait, don't buy this or upgrade to courier shipping, or please understand that shipping is problematic right now.
Bainey is very straightforward with these things. So every time I see her say if you don't like it, don't buy it.
Yes,
right. And I think that's just hilarious.
Yeah, I'm sure she has had to deal with a lot of interesting, shipping related problems recently. Yeah. So I'm sure there's a little bit of frustration in her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so for some reason this was really fast. It arrived in a week. So I don't know what happened there. I don't know why, but super fast delivery. Even though I went with the free, so the cheapest possible shipping option, it arrived in a week. So. So this model, this pen BBS 348 test model, it looks like their 308, their classic a cigar-shaped cartridge converter pen.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is, of course, that instead of having a converter, it has this blind cap with a button.
Mm.
And it also has this newly designed feed, which looks very much like their old feed, except that the fins are a little bit thicker. And also there's this breather tube sticking out of it. So I know many people have complained about PenBBS fins or PenBBS feeds being very fragile. So if you want to swap nibs, you want to remove the feeds, it's very easy to bend the fins. I've actually never had that problem, and I've swapped the nibs on a lot of PenBBS pens. But I know that's a common complaint, and I think that's going to be less. I mean, if you do have that problem with the current PenBBS pens, I think with a new feed, which I think that might be less of a problem because they're thicker. But yeah, the fitting mechanism, as Bain is warning about in the Etsy listing, it doesn't really work as well as you would want to. You have to push like 30-40 times to fill it completely. To be honest, I don't really care about that because you can also unscrew the section and just pour ink straight into the barrel if you want to. And it's a quite cheap pen. I don't really care what a pen looks like. I'm just excited about the fact that they have made this new feed. I think people are going to like the fact that the fins are thicker, and I'm looking forward to the production pen.
Yeah, I think it's a pen that I will never use, but it's so nice to see people innovating around filling mechanisms. My hat's off to PenBBS for always pushing so they're not like other companies, right? Other companies do like materials or shapes and sizes, and to a certain extent PenBBS does the same thing as well, but they always use the exact same nib. Their pens, yes, they have lots of different colors, but generally they don't look too different from each other, right? But the filling systems that they come out with, I think it's just they're really the only pen makers who are experimenting with so much variety. That's what I really appreciate.
Yeah, they've done a lot of interesting ones, right? They have done the syringe filler, they have done normal piston filler, they've done vac filler, they've done that weird PenBBS 500 with that sort of Twisby Go like piston. I'm not sure what to call it, but I think Bainey wrote in an Instagram post that one of Long's the designer Long's goal is to experiment to come up with as many filling systems as possible, and that's clearly what they're doing. So yeah, I agree. Just one thing to add about the nibs. It's true that they have had very similar nibs for a while, but on the other PenBBS accounts, on Long's PenBBS account, he recently started teasing gold nibs, so they are working on gold nibs now. Yes,
that will be interesting. Might have to buy one.
It will be interesting. Yeah, you gotta try one. Yes, see what it's like.
Yep. So I've got some pens as well, and I got a Schaefer Triumph from a very, very talented restorer. His name is Stacy Hills, and he just does the most amazing restorations. And I want to put it on here because we usually don't see these tubular nibs in Japan, but there are three known models with tubular nibs in Japan. Jacob, do you know what they are?
Well, I'm thinking about the Murex and also the Super Ultra. What's it called?
Yeah. So I'm not counting the Mu and the Murex because they're a bit different. Because it's just like an integral pen, right? Not just the nib itself. But yes, you're right. There's the Super Ultra 500. There's that GK copy of the Super Ultra 500.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. And Maruzen did one, but that one is a steel nib. So that's a lever filler steel nib, tubular nib that Maruzen did. And these I think are really, really interesting, and you don't really find these a lot in Japan. You don't find Schaefer's quite often. It's usually a brand that not a lot of people know about. I think in terms of US pens, there's a lot more Waterman here.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, right? Because they had a lot more like eyedroppers and safety pens as well. But this little pen, I mean, it's super small, super cute. I really, really like it so much. Really, thanks so much to Stacy. I want to give him a shout out on the podcast. His work is fantastic. And if you're interested in vintage pens, you know, Stacy he's the man to go to.
And I think he's trying to break Instagram with his stories. He's pushing the limits for how many stories you can have in a day.
That's true. He has like 15 stories or 16 stories a day. It's hilarious. But I watch every single one of them because, you know, the way he restores is just great.
Yeah.
And it's not just been acquisitions, right? We've been shipping a lot as well.
Yeah.
So I told you this story earlier today, but we've been using Yamato.
Yeah.
Who's very, very good and well respected in Japan. Really great service. And we've been using the Yamato's international shipping. And they're partnered with UPS. Now, for the longest time, they kept on saying to their customers that you cannot ship inks with Yamato. So for the longest time, we've been shipping inks with EMS and pens with Yamato.
Yeah.
And so I had to ship an ink, and you know, I'm not proud of this, but I decided, you know what, this is ridiculous, this is nonsense, because here's the difference, right? For inks, there are two different types of inks. There are oil-based inks and there are water-based inks.
Yeah.
The oil-based inks, they explode, right? They catch on fire. So you don't want that. And you find that in ballpoint pens, you find that in like inkjet printer ink. And when people say, you know, don't ship inks, those are the inks you don't want to ship. Fountain pen inks are water-based inks. So, you know, they don't catch, they basically pose no hazard. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to ship these inks. But anyways, Yamato has always said you can't ship inks.
Right.
And we've kind of just taken that for granted. Okay, you cannot ship inks with Yamato. Which is weird because I've shipped inks with UPS before. So, one day I wanted to ship some inks, and they told me you're not allowed to ship inks and fountain pens. And I got kind of upset because it felt like they were kind of, you know, taking me for a ride. You know, they're like, oh, this guy doesn't know how things work, so I'm just going to say some random thing and, you know, not have to deal with this annoying customer.
Right.
And that really grinds my gears because, you know, I ship like hundreds of packages a year. So, I mean, I ship a lot. And for them to tell me, hey, you can't ship fountain pens anymore is just ridiculous. So I asked them to print out the part where it says that the regulations restrict me from shipping fountain pens.
Right.
And so they printed me out this sheet of paper. It took them 30 minutes, but they print this out. And it says, I'm going to translate this, it says ballpoint pens or rollerball pens or fountain pens with ink cartridges inside may not be accepted at import customs. There's a possibility. And when they showed me this, I went back to them and I said, okay, so that means, if I'm reading this right, that means by logical extension that there's a possibility that it will be accepted. And they very reluctantly said yes. And I said, fine, then I'll take the responsibility. Just ship the ink. So what's the worst thing that can happen? It just comes back to me. And lo and behold, they ship out the ink and it gets there just perfectly fine. So I really hope, I think for 2021, you know, in light of the new financial year, my wish for Japanese companies is that they would educate their employees, especially those who work in logistics, right? Really educate them on the kind of regulations that are going around in terms of shipping, because I'm really tired of people telling me that I can't ship something that I totally can.
But I think everyone who lives here who has shipped stuff overseas, they all have a few stories about their challenges trying to ship pens and inks. So I had two recently, right? So I went to the post office and tried to ship ink with like surface mail. And they said you cannot ship ink with surface mail. But if you cannot ship ink with surface mail, how can you ship it domestic, right? So it didn't make any sense whatsoever. And then I remember also a while back, and this was before even the pandemic started. I sold a lot on Mercari before. And when you sell on Mercari, you usually ship with Yamato. It's usually like Japan Post or Yamato, but Yamato is usually more convenient, so I go with Yamato. And at one time, I sold ink, and the buyer was in Okinawa. So we're still talking about Japan. We're not talking about any import customs issues or anything. Right. But because the buyer was in Okinawa, they had to put it on a plane. So Yamato called me after I had sold it and shipped it, and they wanted me to confirm and promise that there was no ink in the package.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really annoying that Yamato is doing that. And I understand why, right? Because there's a real hazard, but not from the same kind of inks. I mean, they're just totally different products.
Yeah.
And the ridiculous thing was that I went to Yamato again a few days ago, and they asked, "Oh, what are you shipping?" I said, "Oh, some fountain pens." And they asked me to write the materials that the fountain pen was made of. And I'm like, this is too far. This is just too much. And I said, I've never had to write this before. I've shipped, hundreds of packages with you. I've never had to write down what the materials of the fountain pen is. So, I mean, they're getting really more and more ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's frustrating, right? Because you finally find someone who you can convince, and then like the next time you go back to that Yamato office, there's another person, and you start all over again.
Yeah, it's really like a customer relationship thing, except we are the ones that have to manage the relationship with them.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, so let's go on quickly to some news. It was announced, I think 2 days ago, that there's going to be another Tono Limbs event. And I think this is significant because it's going to be the first in-person event that's happened with Tono Limbs for about a year.
Yeah, I think around this time last year, they were meant to have an in-store event. And I think this is around this time last year when they shifted to online because the pandemic started to get more and more. I mean, it became a pandemic for them.
That's right.
And since then, they have done a lot of online events. And we have talked about Tono Limbs online events. They have tried various things, and kudos to them for trying to make this work. But it's really, really not the same thing. It's been quite disorganized, but you have to go all over Instagram to find, the next live video or find the stores and so on. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people, us included, are excited about the fact that they are finally trying to do a retail in-store event again. And of course, this being Tono Limbs is going to be in Okamoto,
Yeah, I don't really want to go because it's going to be super crowded. But I'm kind of interested in Kobayashi. I think they might bring some pens. But honestly, I don't know if I'll go to this one. I have a appointment at Ancora, which we'll talk about later on the same day. And I guess it's kind of close, but let's see. I'm not necessarily in a rush.
Yeah, I agree, and I probably don't want to go either. And there are two reasons for that. If you look at, for example, the Bungo Joshi Inkunuma, the moment the doors open, there's no more social distancing whatsoever. I mean, the moment there are inks to fight over, then that's chaos erupts, and I'm sure it's going to be the same thing here. On top of that, as I'm sure you remember, at the last Tono Limbs event in Okamoto, it was very disorganized.
It was awful.
I mean, Okamoto is a beautiful store, by the way. It looks like you go to this traditional Japanese, like ryokan almost. I really like what the store looks like.
Yeah, the store is good.
Yeah, and I enjoy going to the store, but not during this event.
Yeah, but let's see. I think somebody we know will go to the event. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think that Posh might have a VIP pass.
Yeah. Next item, and this is not something that we would usually talk about, but I think it's interesting for a very particular reason. So this is a news about Pelican. Pelican has announced the new M205 model, which they call the Petrol Marble. Jacob, you you have the link open now.
I have it open now, yes.
Okay, do you see the pen?
I see the pen, yeah.
And do you see the resin?
Yes.
Okay, so can you explain to me what you see?
There are similarities between this one and Pilot Custom Heritage SE.
Yeah, that's a very generous way to put it.
But I remember when we did the episode about Custom Heritage SE, I think we said that the blue one in particular looked similar to a previous Pelican model, that Ocean Swirl, right?
I'll definitely need to see this in a store because I think there's going to be some luminescence that's not captured by a camera, right? So how you tilt it in the light, that probably changes the way it looks. So I definitely need to see. This looks like the Pilot SE in green.
I think it looks better than the Custom Heritage, though.
Apparently, that's an issue. That's a matter of taste, and it's not my taste.
You don't like this one?
Well, I don't like the material on the SC either. Like, I just don't like it in general. So, yeah, this doesn't do anything for me. Aside from this, we mentioned a bit earlier, and we would have talked more about this, but you went to Wagner. I didn't actually step in, but I did wait outside while you got some pens for me. Can you tell us a bit about that? Because I haven't been inside, so I really don't know what happened today. But I do want to draw a contrast to the next topic.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about these Wagner events in the past, and I think we said that the first time you go to a Wagner event, it's very exciting because suddenly you see these vintage pens you've never seen before, and suddenly there's a lot of them, and there are some interesting pen makers. But then, you go the second time and the third time and the fourth time, and you start to realize that it's basically the same thing over and over. And this event was just a continuation of that. So you have Wagner was Morrison's table, and nowadays he's mostly selling Taiwanese pens. And you have Tomoko Lichtup, and so she's selling various tonal limbs inks and her new Sailor pen, and she's doing like nib tuning. Then you have Mr. Pilot, and he's probably, at least for me, probably the main reason you want to go, because he's selling all kinds of interesting pilot pens. Including some very hard to find vintage models, and his table is usually quite popular for that reason. Then you have Pen Saloon selling this Kiboho ink and some pens he's done in collaboration with Kanesaki-san. We talked about that before. And then you have Betchori doing the monolettering workshop, and then you have handmade pen cases, and then you have some notebooks. So it's kind of nice, but there was nothing new. And to be honest, for me, the only reason I went was that I had some customer pens I had to give to Hiroko. That's really why I went.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it's not that it's not a good event. It's just that I wouldn't need to go more than once.
Exactly.
Unless I'm looking to buy something.
If you've been to one, you've been to all of them, yeah.
And on top of that, there's this 2,000 yen entry fee. I think this time was 1,000.
Yeah, it was only 1,000 this time, yeah.
You know what this shows? This shows that the entrance fee could be 1,000 yen.
Yeah, to be honest, I think 1,000 is...
It's okay.
Kind of okay, right? Because this is a smaller scale event than something like Tokyo Pen Show, right? I mean, yeah. And especially now during the pandemic, it's not going to be a packed event, and it certainly was not a packed event. I mean, of course, there were a lot of people going to Betchori's monoline lettering workshop, but other than that, there weren't that many people there. And it's kind of a nice, or at least a decent venue compared to the old Suidobashi venue, and I'm sure that's costing money. So I think 1,000 yen is reasonable. I think 2,000 yen was a bit rich.
I think you're absolutely right. Absolutely on the money. I think 1,000 yen is, I think, just right. But 2,000 yen is too much.
Yeah.
Then we went to another place, which was much more active. And this is going to make up the main part of today's podcast. We went to a shop called Ancora. Now, I first heard of this place yesterday.
Yeah, I think all of us heard about it yesterday for the first time. So you posted it in our group chat, and at the same time I saw it started blowing up on Twitter. Actually, I saw it first in a comment. Someone commented on Sailor's post and asked about some of the inks, and I had to look at the top of the thread to see what it was about, and so it wasn't obvious to me at first. But yeah, so what's going on here is that Sailor, they did post promoting a new store called Ancora. And the reason why this is interesting is that they're not just, promoting some retailer. This is actually a store run by Plus and Sailor. So they come up with this new brand called Ancora, which is apparently Italian for anchor. It's a retail store in Ginza, which is this very, very fancy shopping area in Tokyo. And it kind of looks like, if Johnny Ive, if Apple would make a stationery store, this is what it would look like.
I think he would make it look even more minimalistic.
maybe. But it's a very elegant. So we went to today. It's a very elegant store. You have these Sailor vase bottles with like diluted inks on the walls. It looked quite with sort of all colors of the rainbow. It looked quite nice. And then they have these shelves full of pens and notebooks. And they had all kinds of interesting things. They had, make your own Sailor Prophet Junior. They had various limited edition pencils. It was all very tasteful.
Yeah, so it opened yesterday, and we found out about it because I found out about it because Sailor's Instagram had posted about it.
Yeah.
And for me, this was a huge surprise because there was no fanfare about it prior to the release. It was literally they just announced, oh, by the way, we opened a store.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we missed it or if they sort of kept it a secret, because I hadn't heard anything either.
Yeah, I'm not sure they said anything about it, at least from the Sailor side. I don't know about Plus, but from the Sailor side, nothing was really said about it. And there are very interesting things in the store. The store itself, I believe, is actually run by Plus. So all the staff are actually Plus staff, who are obviously very, very experienced. And Sailor is providing a lot of the products inside, but it's not just Sailor, right? There's a lot of different Plus-related stationery. So there's like water pens. There's pencils.
Yeah.
Glass pens. There's all sorts of different stuff. So it's not just a fountain pen shop. You can very much go into the shop, buy tons of stuff, and leave without a single fountain pen or ink. But it's a gateway. It's a gateway to fountain pens. Let's talk about what was there before we talk about kind of the story. So the main thing that we saw, I mean, it's like smack in the middle. Like you go in, and this is the first thing that you see.
Yeah.
The main thing is that there's a build a pen.
Yeah.
So this is exactly the same thing as what we had at Bungu Joshihaku.
Yeah.
This is a very, I would say, it's not targeted to people like us, who are already very much into fountain pens. It's very much targeted at somebody who's never really had a fountain pen before, but is willing to try because it's fun. And it's not super expensive, right? It's like, I don't know how much it costs, but no more than 5,000 yen.
Just below 4,000, I think. So you make your own Prophet, I think Prophet Junior, right?
Yep.
And there were like 5 or 6 different colors. So you pick your barrel, like the finials, cap, clip.
Yep.
5 or 6 different parts.
Yeah, there was also another, there was a, I don't know if this is family friendly, but there was a plug for the butt of the pen because
that's true. Yeah,
because those Prophet Juniors actually have a little hole at the end of the pen, so you can plug that.
This whole display was very clever because, as you said, this was the first thing you see when you go into the store, and it looked quite nice. And if you are to make your own pen, you're gonna be standing there for a while and choose parts, because there were so many parts and colors to choose from, which means that if you walk past the store, it's always gonna look like it's crowded, because that's people are gathering around the door.
I think that's a double-edged sword, because it depends how you run the store, right? You when I was in retail, we wanted the customer to go to the back of the store. Of course, we want the best sellers to be in the front, but the customer should go through the entire store. But the back of the store, which we'll talk about a bit later, is more like a private area.
Yeah.
What they've done really smartly is they've actually put the cashier there. So you have the crowded area in the front, and then you actually force the customer to go all the way to the back and see all of the products.
Yeah.
The second thing that was, I would say, the most prominent was we talk about the ink bar.
Yeah.
And the ink bar, really beautiful ink bar with diluted inks. This ink bar is only available when Ishimaru is there, and you have to make a reservation. So I've reserved for 3 people next week. So we'll be doing that, and I'm looking forward to doing that.
And it's very, very interesting that they're gonna have this ink bar, right? Because we talked in the past about this Ishimaru ink blending events, and they're always immensely popular. You have to book far in advance. It can be hard to reserve a slot. I'm sure that's gonna draw a lot of people to the store.
Yep. I think the next thing that's really eye-catching, and I think is going to be very, very popular, is the birthstone pens.
Definitely.
And these are just killer, because they're, first of all, they're slim minis, right? So they're Pro Gear slim minis. So they're, first of all, Pro Gear, and that's, I think, a more popular shape among collectors. Second of all, it's not just a birthstone; it's a birthstone and the birth flower. So the flower of the month and the stone of the month. And every single month has a unique finial.
Yes.
They have unique nib designs, and they have unique bodies. So Sailor has essentially committed to 12 new minis that's going to come out across the next year. Right now, you can only buy what? April, May, June. And from what I see from the April, May, June, they're good.
They look a little bit like those new Shikiori pens, but as you said, these are minis. And the nib design is nice, and as you say, the flower on the finial is quite beautiful. The only thing I don't really understand is, I thought that these were store exclusives, in the sense that you have to go to this Ancora brick and mortar store to buy them. But you also have this online store now, and you can go to the online store and order them. So I'm not sure what the relation is to this new Ancora brick and mortar store.
So it says Ancora limited edition, Ancora Gente Shohin. So I think this will ship out from Ancora. I think it's like maybe it's like a sub brand. It's like a retail exclusive that you can also buy from Plus. But,
so it's not a brick and mortar exclusive. You don't have to go to this Ancora store in Ginza to buy it, but it's part of this new Ancora brand, which then implies that this brand is larger than this Ginza store.
With an Ancora box. But my favorite out of these is probably the April one. It has a sakura petal on the top, and the theme is diamond, and it looks a lot like, as you said, one of the shikioris. It looks a lot like Yukitsubaki.
Yes.
And I was born in June, and June is a rose, and I think that one's quite nice as well. It's got a nice little rose petal design on the finial, and the body, the birthstone of June is pearl. The body is actually, it's pearlescent, but it actually has a bit of imperfection to the pattern. So it's not a smooth pearlescent pattern. It actually has some striations that aren't that don't necessarily line up with each other, and that's what real pearls look like. And I really appreciate that.
I wonder if there's going to be a way to buy these pens from overseas. So I remember when I went to Sailor's online store before, that if you try to buy it, there's a big like warning saying that if you're trying to buy this from a proxy, we're going to cancel your order. I don't see that warning here. Maybe they just haven't put it up there, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to try to order these pens from overseas because they are really quite beautiful, and I'm sure they're going to be very popular.
Yeah, I think they're just great. They're definitely the stars of the show.
Yes.
But anyways, the point is that these pens are fantastic. And along this, they have created a set. These are pens you can only buy as a set, and they call it the married couples pen.
Yeah, this I think is very interesting. I think for some background, for some context here, what you sometimes give people in Japan as a wedding gift are this pair of like bowls or plates, and they're usually in slightly different size.
Yeah, there's some like sexist issues with this.
Yes.
But
yeah. I mean, think what you will about it, but that is a thing here. What I'm saying is that you get two bowls, and one is larger than the other. And if you look at this pair of pens, you see that the black pen is a slim. The white pen is a slim mini.
Yeah. And I actually think that, regardless of the various, social issues around this, I think this is a great idea.
Yeah.
Because people are going to buy this and people are going to gift it.
For sure. And you can't buy, as far as I can tell, you cannot buy, one of them separately. It's only available as a set.
Yes. You can only buy them together.
Yeah.
So I would love to see next, right? I would love to see a black and a white paired together.
Yeah. That would be very progressive.
Yeah. I don't ask them to make a gray one yet. That's like the next step. But black and white, please.
Yeah. Maybe they're listening.
But I don't think those will be as popular. I think black would still probably work. Two minis might be difficult.
Maybe that will be a special order.
Yeah. Or yeah, I mean, if they can special order that, that's fine too, right? You have just a white in the store, and then you can special order the others. But I think that will be a great commercial success. I hope they will be, so that they can do the other stuff that they want to do.
Yes.
And then on top of that, I personally think they should just give up the Profit line, because the Pro Gear line is just much more distinctive.
I'm sure the Pro Gear is more popular in the West. I'm not sure if that's the case in Japan. What do you think?
I think the opposite, actually, because up until the Sailor 2 Hot Habanero, all of their exclusives have been in 1911. And all of our exclusives are predominantly in Pro Gear.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, they have also this weird new pen now. They call it the Profit Lite.
Yeah, this is very interesting. So we did this emergency episode, right, when we talked about how Sailor had streamlined their product lineup, and they have discontinued a whole bunch of pens, and one of the lines that discontinued was this Promenade, which may have been Japan only, or at least Asia only. And the Promenade was kind of sort of Profit Standard, so 1911S, but slightly different.
The different clips.
The different clips, but also I think the shape was just slightly different. And it was 10,000 yen back then, and then it was discontinued. Now they have announced this new model called Profit Lite, as you said, which looks suspiciously a lot like the Promenade.
And I will say that the Promenade actually had higher quality clips. This clip looks like the clip from the Pro Colors.
But one of the back then, one of the distinguishing features of the Promenade was that the barrels were in these colors, and they had some subtle sparkles. Right, the regular Profit did not have sparkles. The Promenade had sparkles. These new ones have sparkles too. Promenade like sparkles.
Yeah. The black one is beautiful. The black one, I mean, I'm not I'm not the one to advocate for black pens, but this one with the sparkles, the glitter in here,
Yeah.
this is my favorite. Because the others, the glitter kind of gets lost in these colors.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
I mean, they're not nice, but the black one just contrasts so well.
It's interesting if you look at the price. So, again, the old Promenade was 10,000 yen. This one is almost 20,000 yen. Now, of course,
Double of the Promenade.
it comes with, I mean, this might be a small run, and they have a custom nib design, the engraving, but it's twice the price.
But the thing is, these are laser engraved, so they shouldn't actually cost. It's just a matter of programming into the computer. So I don't think these should cost that much. But this is a pricing strategy from Plus.
Yeah, but it will be interesting now to see if they do anything more with this Profit Light, which again looks suspicious a lot like a revived Promenade.
Yeah. I think those are the main. Oh, you can also buy Manyo inks there.
Yes.
And Manyo inks were previously not available in Japan. They were a overseas exclusive, and now at this Ancora shop you can buy Manyo inks, which I'm very, very happy about, because I bought a Manyo ink from overseas and shipping was just very expensive. So I'm really happy to see that Manyo inks are available here in Japan, because I think they're really, really nice. And with that, they also have the earth, the ocean, and the fire Pro Gears. They brought that to their store. These were kind of available in different retailers, but I think, all three of them put together, this is kind of a sign that they're bringing some of the formerly overseas exclusives back to Japan.
By the way, about the Manyo inks, I remember back at the last Tone Limbs in-store event, one of the vendors at Okamotoya actually brought Manyo inks, but as you said, they were probably imported from overseas, so you paid quite a premium on it. So did you see what the Manyo prices were here?
I didn't see the prices, but I expect it to be around the same as the regular 50 milliliters, so maybe less than $25.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. And we also saw the Blue Dwarf, which is very interesting because that was not available in Japan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that model before, but to be honest, I can't keep up with all the Sailor models. So this was a US exclusive?
I think so. Definitely not available in Japan, but I did see it was a continuation of Blue Dwarf. They had Blue Dwarf, they had Supernova, and they had this another one, but I don't remember which it is.
And then they had this new Sakura Plus collaboration pen, right?
Yes. Well, this is really interesting because a few weeks ago they had announced that they were going to do the 4th edition of the Plus Kakria Sailor collaboration. So last year they released this transparent sparkly pen with screen printed sakura petals on them, and everybody kind of went crazy over these pens overseas, right? Like, people were trying to buy these pens, and I think a lot of people ended up getting them from Amazon Japan. Now, this pen was announced weeks ago, and you could actually buy this starting from last week. I went around a lot of stores in Tokyo trying to find these pens to buy, and a lot of the stores like Maruzen didn't have them, the loft near me didn't have them, and I ended up getting fed up and ordered it from Amazon Japan as well. And I have the pen in my hand, and those are blue with pink sakura, which I think is pretty nice. This pen that they have in their store is a limited edition of that limited edition. So they have a limited edition collaboration pen, which is going to sell out and not be sold again. And then they have a limited edition of that, which is only sold at the store. And the difference is that the sakura petals on this limited edition is more white, and the pollen are blue. And I actually think that adds a lot of sophistication to the pen. It makes the pen look a lot better.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
I've just sent you a picture on Messenger, But I think the pink one was beautiful to begin with. Okay, let's put it out there. I think that was a fantastic pen. The screen printing, some people have concerns over it. I have a screen printed pen, and we discussed this on the previous episodes as well. But some people might have put sunscreen on and rubbed it, or they might have been doing their makeup and then they touched it. All of these possible, and all of these could damage that screen printing. This one that they have with the blue pollen, I think that gives the Sakura a bit of pop and actually looks a bit more like Sakura, to be honest, because Sakura is white.
Did you realize this by the time you bought it, or is this something you came home and compared?
I knew that the Sakura petals were more white, but the blue I realized afterwards.
Is the price different? Was this one more expensive?
The price is the same, but I think it will be more expensive on the secondary market. And they have blue petals too, instead of white petals on the original.
Very cool.
Yeah, I really like this. So I bought two.
Of course. You need to have a backup.
Yeah. Exactly. Who knows how much these will go for in the secondary market. But I think that's really, really cool. And you know what? If you thought what we talked about was cool today, well, the next item, they are going to have, and I was wrong, right? We were wrong. We said previously on this podcast, I think about maybe 6 episodes ago, we said, and this was in relation to creating the Prophet Junior. We said that Sailor would never have a program for you to customize and make your own pro gear.
Right.
And we mentioned this special VIP area at the back where they have, and they actually have this kind of Sailor gallery, right? So it's not just pens, but it's also like a gallery. They had some like vintage Sailors. They had a lever filler Sailor. But then in one of the windows, they had big words, coming soon.
Yes.
And then in Japanese, it said customizable.
Yes.
And in the window were these mix and match Sailor pro gears, which is what we wanted. And there are 5 colors for you to choose from. There's red, white, black, navy, and brown. Now, we don't know when this is going to be official yet, but this is super exciting.
It is.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, they've done it, and I just look at other manufacturers, right? Kaweco does something, but they're much more on the low end, like this. And then you have like Montegrappa, which charges like thousands of dollars. This pen, like the mix and match, it's such a great idea, particularly for pro gears. But I think that other manufacturers should take a look at this. And I'm not saying that it's going to work, because I don't know how it's going to work, right? Maybe it's going to be a huge success. Maybe it's not going to be a huge success. Whether they continue this is dependent on whether people buy this. But I think other manufacturers need to look at this experiment, and if it works, they need to start doing the same things.
But I also imagine that given that Sailor has made so many store exclusives and limited editions and all the colors of the rainbows recently, they are probably uniquely positioned to do something like this, because they actually have now the tooling, the equipment to make all kinds of combinations, right? Which not all pen makers might have.
I totally agree. And are you going to make one?
If they have some online, make your own pens, I will at least play with it, and if I like it enough, then I might press the buy button.
Yeah, I think this is just super, super cool. Now they need to do this in Realo. So please, everybody, go make your Sailors, go make your pro gears so that they can expand on this program, because I need to make my own pro gear Realo.
If this turns out to be successful, which I'm sure it will be, I mean, there are so many possible ways they can expand this and do all kinds of fancy things with, glitter and, different models and various patterns.
Transparency.
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next step would be to have you upload your own laser engraved design.
Kind of wonder if this would sort of kill the limited edition market. If you can make your own pen the way you want it, maybe you don't need to chase Kobayashi pens.
I think that would be good. I think that would be healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm tired of chasing store exclusive pens around Japan.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, but they can still do something interesting for the retailers, right? They can say, okay, no screen printing except for retailers. That's still a possibility. I don't think they're going to run out of things to think about. And they'll come in 4 nib sizes, but not in music and Zoom.
Right. For now.
Yeah. And so again, we don't know when this is going to happen, but coming soon, I think that's super, super exciting.
Yeah.
But not only did we have all these exciting things, we actually managed to talk to the staff a lot, because the store, and this is a funny story, it was cash only. And it's very interesting for a stationery store to be cash only, because especially if you're selling these fountain pens for a lot of money, normal people wouldn't have like that kind of cash on them.
Japan is one of the few countries, I guess, where people might actually have that. Although the all kinds of, PayPay and Quick Pay and Apple Pay are becoming popular. This is, for the longest, cash was king, right? So people use cash.
Yeah, but they had a urushi pen that was like $2,000.
I get the impression that it wasn't meant to be this way. It's just that they haven't gotten whatever, credit card processing they needed up and running yet.
Exactly. So they told me that they had actually had everything set up, but there were some technical difficulties. So it was actually an emergency that they had to put up all those cash only signs. But eventually they will be able to take cards. And today I was, it's serendipity, but I took out a wad of cash to pay my rent. And then we go to this cash only store. I'm like, oh wow, I'm screwed. So they wanted to talk to me because, or I don't know if they wanted to talk to me because, but I was going around to the store staff saying, hey, can I take this? Can I take that? Can I take this? And oh, by the way, we didn't mention it earlier, but they have fantastic glass pens as well, hexagonal, triangle. Yes. So those were awesome. They had awesome ink bottle shaped glass pins. Glass brooches, which I got one, and I was like, can I have this? Can I have this? I think I bought like $800 of stuff, maybe a bit less, but so and I was really excited, asking all these questions about the customized pens and concept of the store, and turns out that we were talking to the store manager and the person who was in charge of the collaboration between Plus and Sailor.
Yeah.
And we learned a bunch of stuff, but I think the most interesting things that they told us were that in general, their impression was that the stationery industry is either not growing or even shrinking a bit. And that makes sense, right? I mean, I don't think that's a secret, because people write less and less these days. iPhone, whatever. But what they saw was that even though the general stationery trend is going down in terms of office supplies, actually they saw fountain pens as a part in the stationery world that still had a lot of opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
I guess the same as the inks and the associated peripheries like glass pens. They saw a huge trend in inks. They saw a huge trend in glass pens, and also the more journaling style stationery, and the shift to this segment, particularly the focus on younger, more female audience, is something that Plus and Sailor have done as a collaboration. And we see, again, Pilot is trying to do something like this with their Ilmili brand. Kokio's Pen Pernap, which is, again, terrible name.
Worst name, yeah.
Yeah. It is, I mean, it's not there, but it's also doing something interesting with that brand. Platinum is, as far as I'm concerned, not doing anything in that direction. But it really validates what we've been talking about over the past year, which is that the future of the stationery scene and hopefully the fountain pen scene as well is very much towards the female audience. That's a huge untapped potential market there. And the reason why I wanted you to contrast with the Wagner event is that, again, Wagner, I peeked in a bit, but I think it was like 90% male.
Yeah.
And they didn't really have a lot of things that were really eye-catchy, some new designs. And I think that is going to cause the death of Wagner, the failure to innovate.
There were actually quite a lot of female at Wagner today, but the reason was they all went there for Betchori's workshop, right?
Yes.
They weren't there to buy the pens. But you're right that the typical Wagner member, they go there to buy and sell like vintage pens, usually like Inkidome pens made of ebonite, black and gold. That's sort of what they're into. And I also think we talked fairly recently about Marzen's pen show. I mean, we're both fans of Marzen, but I think the kind of pens that Marzen, promoted and sold during the pen show, it's more toward, the Wagner end of the spectrum than, the plus sailor end of the spectrum. If you look at pens like, the Ohashido, the Pilot Vest type pen, some of the Eboyas, the Athena pen, which is mostly black and gold, right?
Yep.
They're not shiny, sparkly, pastel colored pens. They're pens you buy because you already have, 5 of them and you want a 6th one in the collection, or because you're interested in the history, or because, you know the pen maker.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be cool really to see how events evolve. And again, that goes back to my plea to the other manufacturers. Look at what Plus and Sailor are doing in this space, and if it works, you have to follow the trend. You can't be stuck to your old ways saying, okay, this is our market and that's it. Because there's really a new growing demographic in the space, and it's going to be a huge wasted opportunity if we don't take that chance, right? If we don't take that initiative.
I agree, and I mean the point here is that this shop, represents this new shift. I would say that this new Ancora shop, is more about ink than pens.
Yeah.
There's more shelf space dedicated to ink, I would say, than pens. You had all of the the Ink Studio inks. You had the Ink Bar. You had their exclusive inks, this pink ink and blue ink. There was a lot of ink, and there were a lot of people looking at the ink.
And a lot of paper.
There was also a lot of paper. For some reason, actually, no, that's not surprising at all, because we talked about how Plus owns a chunk of the company behind Apica. So yeah, there's a reason for it.
I will say that I kind of disagree in terms of the pens. I think pens are still super important. They understand that their best sellers are going to be inks, which totally makes sense. But they've committed to making like 20 different models for the store.
Yeah, you're right that they have a lot of limited editions, and that ties into another interesting discussion, because as we said in the beginning of the episode, there is this online store, and you can go to this online store and also buy these limited editions. So they're not limited to this particular retail store, and it seems as if they are now launching Ancora as a brand, and Ancora the brand is larger than this store, and it's conceivable that there may be more Ancora stores in the future with a similar concept.
Yeah. And they did say that they wanted to expand overseas. They said that if that happened, that would be fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this, and I suspect that I'll be spending some time in this store. Our stationary runs have now expanded to beyond Itoya and Marzen. Now we have to go to Ancora.
We have talked about some of our favorite stationery stores. I mean, there are some good things about Itoya and Marzen. I would say neither is, among the most beautiful stores in Japan.
Yeah.
Kakimori, Shosaikan, and this store, I think, are probably three of the most beautiful and most pleasant shopping experiences. Yep.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's been like 70 minutes of us really hyping this up, but I think it's really cool. what they do, I think will, if it succeeds, that will define the next stage in Japanese stationery, especially for fountain pens. I really believe that that other manufacturers need to take a look at this. But yeah, I think I'm all talked out, Jacob. What about you?
It's very exciting. It feels like Plus is doing an Apple-like retail strategy. You know, they want to show that their products in the best possible way, and they're coming up with new products for these stores. And I can't wait to see what's next.
Yeah, and with that, that's our episode. Thank you everybody so much for listening. Again, when you listen to this episode, take a screenshot, make it your Instagram stories, make it a post, tag your friends, tag your family members, just help us spread the word, help us grow the podcast. And, we're really excited for things to come. So thank you so much, everybody. Again, my name is CY. You can find me on my website at tokyostationpens.com, on my Instagram at tokyostationpens, and on Twitter at tokyostationmnh.
And my name is Jacob. I'm foodafan on Instagram and on Twitter, and have a blog at foodafan.com.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.